Hi, and welcome to Conversations with Mental Health Professionals and Friends. I am Madeline Gordon, the owner of Koap Virtual, and I have created this series to add a little support and fill in some gaps for my mental health professional peeps. Today, we have with us the wonderful Melissa Douglas. She is a licensed therapist, a well-being consultant, and the owner of her own group practice. So we're going to sit down and get the little tits and bits from her today. And so I'm so excited to have her. She's also from St. Louis, which is where I'm from. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I'm
So
actually not.
you're not?
Most people think that though.
Where are
I've
you
been
from?
I've been here since about 2009, but I'm from Chicago.
Oh, same difference. That's
Yeah.
I'm from St. Louis, you're from Chicago. It's like the same thing. But okay, I know how it is. Okay, so she's from Chicago. She lives in St. Louis. So whoop whoop, everybody welcome Melissa Douglas.
Thanks,
Melissa,
man.
thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to get a chance to sit down and talk to you today. And I'm hoping that we're going to talk about some things that other people will find beneficial. So I introduced you a little bit, but can you tell the people a little bit more about who you are? And we know you're from Chicago, but fill in some more gaps.
Yes. So yeah, just like I'm Melissa, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So by training and trade, I'm a clinical social worker,
Mhm.
and transitioned into therapy shortly before I started my practice back in 2017.
Okay.
So my background is really largely in community-based social work.
Okay.
I've worked in a lot of different settings, and the therapy route was more so when I knew that I wanted to start a practice. I was like, okay, clinical social work is a little bit different from therapy, so let
Mhm.
me, you know, do a little bit more training on that side. But I'm the founder of, so we were previously goal driven counseling. We did a little bit of rebranding. So we're now GDC Wellness Services.
Okay.
And we were a completely virtual practice. We were
Mhm.
known for being one of the first completely Black owned group mental health practices.
Love it.
But with the shift in things that happened during the pandemic, and as attitudes changed towards virtual services, we actually decided to go hybrid.
Mhm.
And we do a lot of organizational wellness services now, which is largely the services that we offer in person,
Okay.
while all of our individual services, so the counseling, we also provide wellness coaching services to people who may not quite be ready for therapy. And those all remain virtual. So that's kind of how we manage the hybrid component.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So tell me, you have a group practice now.
Mhm.
Did you start out the gate with the group practice or did you operate as a solo practice at
Yeah.
first?
Oh, absolutely not. So I started as a solo practice,
Okay.
and probably for a little over a year.
Mhm.
I was solo, a little bit under a year
Okay.
actually. And as just demand kind of grew for people wanting to back, we talk in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
100% virtual, and that was
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of education and promoting and convincing people that
Mm-hmm.
this was actually like a reputable,
Mm-hmm.
actual service model. So
Okay.
I feel like once that started gaining steam and we started to get more and more people that were interested, that's when I transitioned into a group practice. And it was very kind of informal at first. Like two of my
Okay.
friends and colleagues that
Okay.
saw me, that really believed in what I was doing, they were like, "Oh, we'll come help you." And so they were my first. Back then, we were doing contractors, and so they were
Okay.
my first contractors that started seeing more clients. And then in 2022, we
Mm-hmm.
transitioned to an employee model.
Okay.
And um, you know, all that time we had additional providers, but really started to formalize like our approach. Really making sure and ensuring that all services, all engagements with the practice were all the same,
Okay.
with the employee model versus contractors.
Okay. So pro and con of going from solo to group.
Um, the pro is I love our team. Like I always tell people, and I continue to assert that I have been blessed with an amazing team.
That's good.
We always seem to have people that just really align, and it feels like an extension of my heart and my baby. Like people,
Mm-hmm,
they get it.
mm-hmm,
So our team is a huge pro. We also have a very our team represents who we serve. So very large, black team, which is something that I really value
mm-hmm,
too. But then also just other identities and things as well are represented. So that's a huge pro. I won't necessarily say that it's a con. I will say a challenge
mm-hmm,
of group practice is just the large people management
mm-hmm.
part. Especially moving from a contractor to an employee model. With contractors, they are able to kind of come in, see the client, do
Mm-hmm.
the work, write their note, and leave.
Yeah.
Whereas with employees, it's a lot more training, it's a lot more structure, it's a lot more oversight, it's a lot more development
Mm-hmm.
of them. And so just you know as we grow and providing more services, having more partnerships and all those kind of things, it has been challenging for me, and I'll be very transparent with that, just like juggling all the pieces,
Mm-hmm.
because I still also wear like the clinical director hat. So the therapist development and quality care is something that's really important to us. Systems and processes
Mm-hmm.
and these endless SOPs that got to be,
Right. You gotta have
created.
those SOPs, right?
It's just, those kind of things just seem to never end. It's always evolving. It's a living piece of the practice that does not stop.
Yeah.
So I would say that's a challenge for me.
So you talked about that. SOPs is my favorite acronym, right?
Yeah.
Because when we have clients, we definitely see the clients that do have set SOPs and processes, that their businesses are thriving, and it makes it easier for us to come in and support them.
Hmm.
So how did you navigate that? Because of course, this is not a part of business that they teach you in school. So how did you learn to be able to put the business side in place, especially once you brought on team?
Hmm. I would say two different pieces. One's personal, one's professional. So I always tell people that I have an in-house cheat code.
Okay.
So people ask, like, well, why did you start a virtual practice or a telehealth
Mhm.
practice? And my husband is in IT.
Okay.
So a very like technology and like the client interface and client experience with technology is something that is a central conversation in our house a lot.
Okay. Okay.
So that's one side of it. And just being very in tune with and wanting people to have let me back up. We have a large percentage of clients who are Black and experiencing therapy for the first time.
That
And
part.
so that is something that is very valuable to
Hmm.
me. And honestly, in my mind, I'm like, we don't want to mess this up, right? There's already a stigma that's attached to
Stigma,
therapy.
yeah.
There's already this idea that it's hard to get into a therapist. People don't call us back. All
Hmm.
these kind of things. So I've never wanted that to be the experience of any of our clients that come through the door. And so that's always been a conversation. But then on the professional side, just business, coaching and things,
Hmm.
and working with consultants is something that I invested in pretty early, because I knew that I was taught how to be a pretty good social worker,
Hmm.
and expanded knowledge on being a good
Yeah.
therapist. I had no idea of what it took to be an entrepreneur or business owner. And, especially when you are the one that's wearing a lot of hats before you can
Hmm.
really grow like an administrative team and all those kind
Hmm.
of things. There are just so many things that I don't know, and I don't
Yeah.
know how to do. or,
And you don't
or
know that you don't know.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. So that's kind of where it started from with me, like wanting a great client experience, but then also identifying and understanding that there's a business side to this that
Hmm.
has to be um, developed just as
Yeah.
much as the clinical side.
Yeah. I love that. So it basically sounds to me like they have to be willing to invest in themselves, invest in their business. And
Yes.
it's going to take some time. It's going to take some support. Because I am very passionate about, like I have my daughter is 23, I think. She's 23. And I know when she was like 18, she was looking for a therapist. We had never done therapy personally in our family. Like you were saying, it's still that stigma, it's the pray about it. It's the,
Mhm.
there's nothing really wrong with you type of deal. And so when she started calling around, nobody was answering the phones. And she was so about to say, I give up. I
Yeah.
don't, it's not worth it. I almost didn't want to do it in the first place. I'll just go read my Bible or talk to my friends, right? And at that time I was working with mental health professionals. So I had to tell her, I had to say, they're just busy. It's not that they don't want to, they're probably seeing a client and can't answer the phone,
Yeah.
or they can't follow up with you. And it doesn't mean that you should abandon therapy, because everybody should be doing therapy, I believe. And so it was really, really important to me. If somebody is brave enough to pick up the phone for the first time for therapy, they shouldn't have to talk to a voicemail, and they definitely shouldn't have to wait 3 or 4 days to hear back from you.
Hmm.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about what we do, because
Yeah.
we answer those live calls and they don't have to worry about that. And that making sure that first experience for somebody getting therapy, they can get the support that they need.
Hmm.
Okay, so you have the practice. Did you get to a point that you were like, I need to do more as far as bringing in more income or opening other doors for myself, to maybe not have to do the one-on-ones and things of that nature?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I tend to say that I have found I created a perfect job, but
Hmm.
it has like 5 or 6 different lanes.
Okay. Okay.
But yes, so I kind of laughed a little bit when you said, did I get to a place
Hmm.
of feeling like this? And I feel like it met me
Hmm.
before I even had the thought to go,
Hmm. Okay.
right? And in a sense, that's a blessing,
Hmm.
right? So when I talk about the being in the space of telehealth kind of before it was so large, before the
Right.
pandemic, that afforded me of being kind of seen as a telehealth expert.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I got the opportunity to teach a telehealth course because of that, and that transitioned into some telehealth consulting of other providers who wanted to create virtual practices. And being in that lane is so interesting because people don't, so we talk about having like specialties and like
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and when you get into the space of like presenting and speaking and all of that, people don't really necessarily pay attention to like what your specialty is. They're just like, oh,
Hmm.
like I seen you, I like the energy, whatever, can you
Hmm.
talk on this?
Yeah.
Right. So although I started out mainly presenting and talking about telehealth and like all
Hmm.
these kind of things, that transitioned into having all kind of presentations on mental health literacy topics, stress management and anxiety reduction, like all those other kind of things. So it's like things like that kind of just started to happen,
Okay.
that started to create lanes for other opportunities to happen.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until probably a couple years into that where I was like, oh, like this actually these are different revenue and business,
Hmm.
streams
Hmm.
that need to be a little bit more formalized.
Okay.
And that probably too came from the first business coach that I was working with. She was like, I remember one specific thing that she asked me, which transitioned into developing like my own like personal brand
Okay.
outside of the
The
business.
practice.
She
Yeah.
asked me to detail all the things in the practice that only I can do, or that only I do. Right. So, are you the only one that presents on this? Are you the only one that consults on this? And if I wasn't willing, or it wasn't within the business model to create my team to also do those
Hmm.
things, is like that needs to be your own brand,
Love that.
right? And like
Okay.
let's be a little bit more concrete and strategic about what this looks like.
Okay.
So yes, I would say it kind of accidentally happened, and then as it was accidentally happening, it got formalized a little bit later. But now with the rebrand of the practice, um, that's largely where we've shifted to,
Hmm.
because we developed a good reputation in the community of being a go-to for presentations and trainings and things like that. And my first mindset was, I cannot be the only one in the practice that's doing this. Like, I've had my own experience of, going through burnout and
Yeah.
having a pretty severe medical issue, that happened a couple years ago. So I was like, okay, part of that employee model was to train and develop my team to be presenters, to be, coaches, to do
Mhm.
all these things so that I'm not the only one that's being pulled from
Yeah.
and they're in the back during sessions. So that's really kind of the identity of the practice now, of us largely doing more one-to-many services than one-to-one services, or the
Okay.
one-to-one services come out of partnerships now.
Gotcha. Okay. So you mentioned one of those keywords of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Burnout is everywhere. It's not just in the mental health field. I mean, when you got the burnout professionally, and then with everything that's going on around us in this great country of America right now, there is a lot. It is a lot, right? So tell me, was there a point in your business that you were like, oh my God, this is burnout? Did it take a while for you to realize it was burnout? And then what happened when that happened?
Child, how long we got? Absolutely, it took a while for me to figure it out, and it's not that the signs were not there.
Mm,
I think it was because I was in denial for a
mm,
while.
mhm,
We don't talk about a lot when you are someone that's experiencing burnout. And I think it's different when you're in a helping profession, or I think service based spaces where you're interfacing with people a lot. There's a certain level of shame that's attached
mhm,
to
mhm,
experiencing burnout, because there's this indirect message of, how can you be so irresponsible to not take care of yourself?
mhm, mhm,
Or um, this idea of like, you burning out meaning that it means that you care less, or that you're
mhm.
starting to lose the heart for the
Yeah,
work. And
yeah,
none of those things are true. It's
right.
just like life happens for people, and being overwhelmed and, you know, overcommitted and so many other things contribute to that. So I think I was in denial for a while, and so many things were happening in regards to how my body was holding stress, how I was being impacted mentally and emotionally.
Mhm,
Um, I was when we're talking about burnout, I always like to make the distinction, because when we talk about it from a space of this thing just happening.
mhm,
I've arrived to burnout, but there are actually 12 stages of burnout that are very distinct.
okay.
And so when we look at the actual different stages of burnout, and they increase by severity, right? So one is
Mhm,
like, you got a little bit of this going on, and 12 is full blown burnout syndrome.
okay.
By the time I actually acknowledged and spoke that I was going through burnout, I was full fledged, like level 10, 11,
Oh,
12.
so you were at the far
I
end
was
of
up
the,
there.
okay, okay, okay,
I was up there. And,
okay.
you know, that is a level and a space where, behaviorally, emotionally, mentally, physically, you have been depleted to a space where you don't even recognize yourself anymore.
Mhm,
And that was definitely my experience. And it just so happened that once I started to acknowledge that this is what this really is, literally within like 60 to 90 days of that same time span, that's when my health condition started to ramp up. And
mhm.
I think there's a huge correlation to it, that I was under a great amount of stress,
Stress.
because I eventually was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder.
Okay.
And for any of us that knows anything about autoimmune disorders, them and stress do not mix.
Mhm,
Stress makes them amplify to a great
mhm.
degree.
Yeah, it feeds
Um,
it.
yeah. And so I was having both of those experiences at the
Okay.
same time. And it set me down for a
Mhm,
while. Like, I literally had to pull back from my work. And I said earlier, like, I'm so grateful for our team,
mhm.
because I got to a point where our one of our team members, who has been amazing, she's been with me probably almost 5 years now.
Okay.
I literally handed the practice in her hands for a few months, and was like, we can meet weekly. I'll continue to do payroll. but can you carry this out until I figure out if I'm actually going to close this business or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to recoup
Yeah.
and be able to come back in the way that I needed to and wanted to come back. So, yeah, this was 2022, late 2022.
Okay.
So, all of 2023 into like early 2024, I was experiencing a lot of this. And I tell people even now, like, health is better, all kind of thing. Like, things are so much better, but I'm still in burnout recovery. There are
Mm.
still so many things that I have to be so intentional about.
Yeah.
There was such a long time that I navigated health anxiety because as sick as I got back in 2023, I was so hyper vigilant and anxious of like, oh, this symptom is there and that symptom is there. Is it going to sit me down the way that it did before? I was fearful of coming back into the work because I don't know if I'm going to be pulled out again.
Yeah.
Like it was so many pieces to recovering from that. And it's still a space of recovery that I probably will be in for a long time. I don't know if this
Yeah.
part like actually goes away or if it's just a new way of doing life.
Okay. So you have, what is it? The Prevent, Preserve, Protect,
Oh,
My Journey Through Burnout Recovery. Okay.
yes.
So is that's something that you created due to the burnout you were going through yourself?
Yes. So I have a very love-hate relationship with social media.
I know,
And
me too.
I fully understand and I see the correlation and the numbers and all those kind of things. When we are active on social media, it translates
Right.
to,
The dollars.
positive. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. When we are not, like to some degree, it still keeps up because there's a lot of things going on in the background that doesn't
Right.
have to show up on social media. But for my like personal brand side
Mhm.
outside of the business, I only share bits and tips over the years of like what I was going through.
Okay.
It took some time for me to actually like share, my illness, to share like what I was doing to recover from it, and then I would kind of like stick my toe in. I'm like, okay, see y'all in 3 months, like
Mhm.
kind of thing. And
Mhm.
it wasn't
Mhm.
intentional,
Yeah.
but for me, a large part of my recovery also has been just protecting my time and energy because
Mhm.
as therapists we pour so much. It's such heavy mental power that I don't
Right.
always want to do that
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
but I couldn't ignore the shared experiences and connections and comments and DM conversations from
Mhm.
people that were like, "Oh my gosh, I've experienced the same thing," or I was diagnosed with this particular
Mhm.
autoimmune disorder, and I know somebody else who was too. Not surprising that they were 95% Black women,
Mhm.
right? So it's been on my heart for a while to be more vocal and to share more of my experience because I'm grateful that I feel like I'm on the other side of it
Mhm.
to be able to remain in the field to do what I love because a lot of people, therapists or not, when you experience burnout in a professional space, sometimes it makes you exit that space.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I feel a level of gratitude that I found that God has helped me find a
Mhm.
way to stay here and to thrive, in this space. So I just want to share it with
Yeah.
other people. And I kind of just, it wasn't this super like, curated thing. I don't have this big offer at the end of it.
Mhm.
It was literally like, people asked, people have checked on me, people
Yeah.
DM, and I'm like, you know what? It's been a while. I'm just going to put it all in one thing. And I'm going to share with you all, what helped me in hopes that it will help somebody else too.
Love it. So you
Yeah.
said there were 12 steps to burnout?
12
Okay.
different stages.
I'm not gonna put you on the spot and make you tell me all 12.
Oof, I couldn't tell you in order.
Oh, can you? If you
I said I
can?
couldn't tell you in
Oh,
order
okay.
just from memory.
Do you know the first and do you know the last?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the first one is literally just this desire and this internal urge to seek validation and worthiness within your career space,
Hmm.
right? And I will go to say that for almost any professional, especially Black professionals, when we think about the extra loops and hurdles and, you know, oppression and disparities and systematic issues that we have to jump through to get to the professional spaces that we're in, we already come in with that level of burnout. We had that level of burnout at 15.
Exactly.
You know, but so that's the first stage is seeking this level of worthiness and validation within your career space. And then the last stage of burnout. So let me actually talk in between there to make it make sense. So why? Because I know a question could be like, well, okay, well, why is that an issue? It's because as you progress through the stages of burnout, the way in which you engage with that desire starts to put your health and wellness on the back burner with the prioritization of achieving, you know, value attached to productivity and all these other kind of things becomes the central point, right? So if I'm seeking this value, this validation, this worthiness within the career space, that may look like me losing boundaries, right, within my professional space because I want to get that promotion. I want to get that, you know, raise. I want that particular title. So I'm taking my computer home. I said I was going to be off at 5 because I got to go to my kids' game, but I'm up at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And just because we got that schedule sent on email, I'm faking like I sent it at 8 o'clock in the morning, but I'm really on this computer till 11 and 12. And that's not good for me and my mental, being on a screen, you know, not having dinner with my family, not having my own protected time outside of my professional space. And as we progress throughout those stages, we start to rationalize those things away, right? We start to shift the mental narrative that comes with that experience. Sometimes we then, as we progress through the stages, may have these experiences where we start to be cynical about our work. We start to disconnect from the work. We start to isolate. We start to withdraw. All these things up until that final stage is full out burnout syndrome. Before that, you usually get to a space of depression and a very high degree of withdrawal because there's been a shift in mood, presentation, all of that, because you're just not quite feeling like yourself anymore. You know, I'm not speaking up in the meetings. I'm not giving the ideas. I'm not going the extra mile anymore because I become detached internally. So that's kind of how the stages progress.
Okay. So once you get to level 12, hopefully you don't get to level 12. But if you get to a point where you know it's burnout and you're ready to sit in that and not be in denial about that, what would your advice be to heal or reverse that burnout? Because it can't just be, I mean, it could be for some people, but it can't just, usually for most people, it can't just be from walking totally away from this career, this business that you set up. What is a practical way to start reversing that burnout?
So I would say, first, so practically, so I'm honestly, and no matter what that looks like, and it may not be walking away from the role or space altogether, but I can almost guarantee that if you're at that space within your professional work, you have probably overcommitted, overburdened yourself. You feel like you're drowning within something. And the only way to come up to the surface is you have to release something, whether it's a project, whether it's a client, whether it's this thing that has caused me so much anxiety. Maybe I can't walk all the way away, but I have to do something that allows me to float to the surface. Often when you're at that stage, there's a great deal of nervous system dysregulation, right? And so even being able to acknowledge and get into a space of like mindfulness with yourself to identify it, speak it, say it, look at these 12 stages and be like, yep, I'm at 10, 11, whatever, because what we don't acknowledge, we can't heal, right?
Yeah, right.
And then I would also say, once you have and this is the real work.
Okay.
Once you have taken that time to float to the surface to identify, okay, what stage am I really at? Where am I really at? You have to identify the source. because there are tons of things. It could be people, it could be expectations, it can be your own past traumas, it can be so many different things that have contributed to why you have put this pressure on yourself to show up in this way.
Mm.
And I know I had to revisit that a lot. I was
Okay.
like, "Ooh, I thought I did my work already."
Yeah.
Like I thought and I'll actually take that back, because it's not necessarily a situation where you did this work and you could check it off and you never have to revisit it again. But sometimes we get in different seasons and different spaces of our life where a similar thing triggers something else, and now we got to go back to that other thing and rework it again with this
Yeah.
level of awareness,
Okay.
right? So I would say, and I don't know how you can do that without talking to somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even if it's not a therapist, it got to be somebody trusted. It has to be somebody that can help walk you through and untangle these things,
Mm-hmm.
because there are probably some trauma responses, some core beliefs, something that's going on that contributed to you getting there in the first place.
Okay.
And so we can't recover and heal from it if we don't first acknowledge, like, what is that environment, that atmosphere, that issue that caused me to get here, so that I don't remain here and continue to
Mm-hmm.
replicate the same issue.
Okay. Good. That's good. So with your prevent, preserve, protect, I don't know, would you call it a program or what would you call it?
No, it is just a webinar. So
It's a
it is a
webinar. Okay.
webinar that's actually happening tomorrow, so February 28th at 2 p.m.
Okay.
And it's a webinar where I'm going to walk people through those three parts of the framework. A lot of kind of like what we're talking about right now
Mm-hmm.
is going to be kind of part of it. I did specifically, in my experience, so leading up to this webinar, I shared this video series of utilizing the 8 dimensions of wellness to achieve this burnout recovery stage.
Okay.
And so I want to highlight for people, because sometimes we only think about, you know, I need to eat better. I need to go exercise. I need to, like, we think about these certain things when it comes to our wellness or self care. And
Mm-hmm.
we miss sometimes that there are other things that contribute to this environmentally, socially, spiritually,
Yeah.
that if any of these areas are off, is going to knock the other areas off too. So, walking people through the framework of prevent, preserve, protect, also identifying, acknowledging these opportunities within these different dimensions of wellness to take care of ourselves better. But then I'm also going to have a Q&A too, of people being able to ask specific questions, so that they can walk away with just further insight and hopefully a more kind of personalized toolbox that makes them feel somewhat equipped to start the process for themselves.
Okay. Now this video will actually be released after your webinar, but do you have intentions of making it like evergreen or where people will be able to access it later?
I don't know. I'll record it. I'll see.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I'll see.
Um, okay. So in case you do, I think that you didn't create that webinar just solely for mental health professionals, but definitely, I mean, everybody can benefit it. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to see this exodus of all this expertise that you health professionals have exit because of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want you to leave and start doing other things because you're much needed, especially right now. I mean, I would say since the pandemic, I've only seen, the increase in people desiring or being willing to start therapy for the first time. So we don't want to see you leave. So I definitely think, you know, what you're doing would definitely benefit any professional people, but especially mental health professionals as well.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that, and I hear that 100% of, there is need within the field, and we need people to meet that need for people.
Mm-hmm.
What I'll also say, though, when it comes to burnout for, any person, and especially therapists too, that you ultimately have to do what's best for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if that means that, maybe me leaving is a pause,
Yeah.
right? Maybe I'll be back, or maybe I'll shift to do something different within the
Different.
field. Because if we talk specifically about therapists, there are so many other barriers
Hmm.
right, that contribute to this space for us,
Hmm.
right? When we think about, our insurance in our country, when we think about how, therapy in some communities is a bit of a band-aid,
Hmm.
when there are other social and societal
It
things that are
needs to
needed
be
for
handled.
people.
Yeah.
A lot of people that go into therapy or being therapists also come from very challenging backgrounds themselves,
Hmm.
right? So the work can trigger certain things for them. So I 1000% agree. And I would love as many therapists as possible.
Hmm.
When we talk specifically about burnout, I also want to validate people too,
Hmm.
because, as I was talking earlier about that shame that's sometimes attached to burnout. Um, if you decide, or whatever you decide is going to be the thing that rescues you for where and who you need to be at this time in your life, then we got to support that.
Love that. Love that. Okay. So where can people find you if they want
Mhm.
to, if they're like, oh, I love her vibe. I want to, attach myself to her in some kind of way. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So I am Melissa Douglas, in parentheses, the virtual clinician,
Okay.
on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. On IG, I am the virtual clinician.
Okay.
I started a little something on TikTok. I'm also Melissa Douglas, I think LCSW over there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the practice is GDC Wellness Services too.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I appreciate you. This was a great conversation. And until next time, thank you, thank
Yes.
you, thank you. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
What I will say is stay tuned. I will link Melissa's information also below. Hopefully, she will go ahead and record that webinar tomorrow, and I'll have a link for you guys. But if not, reach out to her in those social platforms that she mentioned, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.